Sword sect 5th elder Su Bai is the youngest and most handsome elder, who is constantly praised by women everywhere, who often overlook his strength. The system has appeared in front of Su Bai and notify him of a new disciple with revolutionary fate. The system prompted the host to find her as soon as possible. Her name is Xiao Ruqing, height 168, weight 47 kilograms. 3 sizes 93, 58 and 88. She has a deep bitter revenge and both parents are deceased. Su Bai claims the system misunderstood, and he just wants pure on flawless men and women to form a student-master relationship. But his perverted smile betrays him, noticing her stacks of buffs. He thinks she'll be conceited, he flies to the direction of his disciple. Meanwhile Xiao Ruqing is being held down by a pervert. While the city burns down, a bald man is on top of her. He licks his lip, he gets closer, but Ruqing then noticed a burned corpse and says mother and father. He holds her hands, then attempts to tear off her clothes. She screams, he can no longer hold back his lust, behind him a voice calls him weak. He coughed up blood, and the voice told him he was being impatient. At first sight the bald man body began to shake, as he lost consciousness as instinct told him Su Bai was dangerous. Su Bai released intense pressure from his body extinguishing the fire. Su Bai asked her if she's willing to join the immortals. She was surprised after realizing it's Su Bai. It takes her some time to process what he's saying. Su Bai exclaims if she doesn't want the offer, their fateful meeting will end here. Su Bai can't let her go so easily. She's a peerless natural gift with extraordinary talent. And incomparable, strangely Xiao Ruqing is burning with rage. She accepts his offer, but her expression is far from what Su Bai expected. Su Bai believes she's slightly reserved, but also respectful to her master. The system popped up and rewards Su Bai with 10 consecutive draws for getting a new disciple. Su Bai draws and got some really horrible cards. He looks at Ruqing with a sour expression, upset by the gifts he received. He is then rewarded with the title Son of Destiny, and his luck has increased to the upper limit. Su Bai then smiles with a weird look on his face. They prepare to depart for the sect. Su Bai offers her his hand. He tells her after her training is complete he'll accompany her as a teacher to fulfill her revenge. She accepts his hand and thanks him. Ruqing stares at the vast horizon as her master explains there is almost never a time to be a hero as a cultivator. At that moment down below a cultivator is being a hero. He gets embarrassed knowing his speech is partially ruined. He then exclaims items are difficult to get so don't expect them handed to you. Down below a guy found very rare items, Ruqing says master. Su Bai tells her to shut up. Su Bai explains immortal cultivation is dull and uninteresting subject whether you're strong or lucky. And the most important thing is that you give feedback to your master. Ruqing flatters Su Bai with a heartfelt thanks. He informed her. She will be his personal disciple, not the sword sect's. Ruqing is finally back, and she swears to kill Su Bai with her new life. Down below Su Bai is told the Grand Elder has called him for a meeting. He abruptly lands the sword causing Ruqing's face to connect with the sword. Su Bai orders her to go to Bujian Peak, and informs her. He'll be back when the meeting ends. He drops down and Ruqing tells him to come back early. Ruqing wonders why he's different from the shady and bold tyrant from the previous life. Su Bai then informs her that she can find a breathing exercise at the corner of his desk. And warns her not to touch the bottle on his desk. Su Bai is surprised that the first disciple the system would allow him to accept would be so well behaved. He decided to check out the system proprietor. Su Bai becomes upset after realizing there is no change. when the system should give him 10,000 feedback. At first Subai thought it was an RPG system. He was surprised when he realized it was a cultivation system. That being said, Subai always thought it was an unreliable system from the beginning. A month earlier he obtained the apprenticeship up to 10,000 times feedback system. He was transmigrated while reading a novel under the sheets. He wanted to pee, but decided to finish the last 30 chapters instead. The system informed him that was the cause of his death. He got angry and elbowed the system, wondering if this was written by a human. He muscled up like Hulk and asked if the system is taking advantage of the fact that he didn't read the novel. Suddenly the system repair itself and explain he will receive cards whenever he gains a disciple and it doubles when the disciple is promoted. His appearance then changed to 5th Elder Subai, and gain incomparable strength and peerless beauty. The system went further and disrespected other trash male protagonists. Subai smiles like a child after understanding. At present he believes the system is a scam. At that moment Grand Elder Pin Xing called out to him, then hugs him, suffocating his face in her opai. Their fun is then interrupted by 2nd Elder Shi Qingyi. Pin exclaims she has the mind of someone in the Middle Ages. She states she has changed Subai diapers when he was young and have seen every part of him. She tells them they look like the Grand Elder is rubbing the 5th Elder against her breast, and the 5th Elder is so bewitched by his female disciples that he has only reached the mid-transformation stage. She then points at the 6th Elder and says he is more like a drunkard than an elder. The 6th Elder says Subai had been working hard and that he's only in the return to the void stage. He smashes his head in the ground and asked if he's proud of reaching the void stage. When their sect is rank 985th, and in those 985 sects no elder is below the middle stage of return of the void. Ping exclaims that their sword sect is very friendly. Different from the other sects, who are always scheming for power. They then begin the subject, this year's recruitment conference. The new student recruitment conference is held every year. Ping explains the person needed to head the recruitment must be powerful. Subai is the weakest, they must have a lot of free time. Subai just promised to help his new disciple take revenge. And the person must be eloquent enough or good students will be taken. All these words sucked the life from Subai. Shi Qing'el proudly states that she's the only one capable of being in charge of the Sword Sect recruitment conference. Qing'el thinks she can use the conference as an opportunity to increase the strength of her highest sword peak. And when the time comes she'll be the only one capable of taking the Grand Elder's position. However, Grand Elder Ping believes Subai fulfills each role perfectly. This caused them both to spit blood. At that moment Ru Qing drinks from the bottle she was ordered not to touch. She lays on the ground and asked, "Who are you?" A giant perverted chicken approach her. She tells it she'll scream if it comes closer. It says in chicken language no one will come even if you scream at the top of your lungs. She screams, and in the next scene the chicken is on top of her. Then Subai interrupts and says he see they are getting along well. In an angry tone, he asked what he's doing to his disciple. The chicken says he's just helping him, by taking care of her. Subai then noticed the chicken had allowed her to drink whiskey he made for 6th brother. The chicken puts on an apron and goes to cook. When the chicken grew up it started nagging. But if it wasn't for its capabilities in house chores, Subai would have made chicken stew. Subai pities her after thinking of what she endured. But he believes she's lucky to have such an elegant and confident master, who has high cultivation and positive energy. The next day Subai and his student are in a compromising position. Ru Qing talks in her sleep asking why Subai's still alive. The 6th elder entered exclaiming his room smells of wine. He sees the scene. Subai becomes shocked and Ru Qing sleep talks exclaiming, "Master, don't touch me." Like a man of culture, he gives him 1 minute to finish up. Su Bai tells him not to misunderstand. He then kicks him out after realizing he said 1 minute. Later on, the sixth brother is informed as whiskey has been consumed. Meanwhile, Ruqing wakes up and thinks the noise is annoying. She then inspects her clothes, and realizes it's the new disciple attire and thinks it's very comfortable. She believes Su Bai will lose his temper if he sees that she stole and drank his bottle. She then looks at a bottle and has an idea. She makes soup and tells Su Bai to taste it. Su Bai's cultured mind imagines her as a hot maid. Ruqing believes he's been fooled by her seductive skills and he's unaware of the poison she put in. She serves him a bowl first. Su Bai admires her long legs. She asked in a sweet tone what he's looking at. Su Bai thinks the mountain is high and massive. He looks at the soup, and noticed that it contains crude salt used for constipated pigs. He thinks she put in the wrong seasoning. The sixth elder grabs the bowl and announces his whiskey was drunk by both of them and the soup will be compensation. Ruqing tells him to wait. He wonders where the chicken came from. He exclaims that the chicken used is phoenix feathers. That has been cultivated to a fine level. Sixth elder says give him another bowl and the whiskey problem is solved. Su Bai warns him not to drink any further. Sixth elder's stomachs growl. And it's more than a fart. The next day disciples pass by Bujian Peak and smell a familiar scent that reminds them of the fifth elder's research called methane. But was halted by the grand elder. At that moment Ruqing is wearing a maid's outfit and is sweating. She thinks the air freshener made by Su Bai is convenient. Ruqing noticed a book holding the foot of the bed. She thinks it needs to be replaced. After being stained by the sixth elder, after inspecting the book, she realized it's the sword sect Untold Secrets, the sword code. She thinks he had hidden it from her there. She states out loud as long as she trains day and night, she will be able to surpass that devil. Su Bai snatched the book and says it's the toilet paper he used to pad the foot of the bed. He tells her to put it back or the bed won't stop shaking when it's time to sleep. He exclaims she can't take revenge with such an average technique. Ruqing says the book is the secret method of the sword sect. How could it be average? Su Bai tells her the hidden sword pavilion is full of better methods. Ruqing latches onto his feet and asked him to help her get to the hidden sword pavilion. Su Bai states he will transmit her a training method. Ruqing smiles and calls him the best master in the world. At the sword pavilion some weaklings say he must be visiting because he's been stuck at the transformation stage for too long. When he enters, a voice asked what does he want. Su Bai explains he has come to pick up a valuable book. The woman exclaims why don't you leave and never come back? She then reveals she has failed to learn the cutting thousands of constellations with a blade of grass, which he mentioned 2 years ago. She points her sword at him and asked to be instructed again. The disciples believe Su Bai has gone mad to suggest such a thing at his level. He takes his place on stage. A wishes he could lie like the senior sister did with a couplet. She exclaims she's dumb and doesn't understand. He says in a cold tone she has disappointed him. He asked her what the way of the sword is. She responds the sword path is limitless and a boundless sword is capable of breaking all laws. The sword is the man and the man is the sword. When they become one, no one can stand in their way. The disciples believe there can't be a more powerful technique than turning into a sword. Su Bai says the same things, but way longer and a bit exaggerated. There is no coming back from those lies. He declares man has one life. Grass but one spring, with the sword one can heal the world of injustice. His words touch their hearts. She asked if this is the sword skill he has comprehended. Su Bai exclaims that he wants a world of sincere swordmen, where everyone can have a sword to cut through the sky. She blushes and admits she was being impulsive. This made Su Bai upset. She states she wants to be like Su-bai and shouts "Come sword." The disciples wonder how such illuminating words could come from a mere deity transformation. He escapes, then searches for a book that matches his disciple talent. He noticed a book named The Skill That the Protagonist Must Practice. Since it's in the pavilion, he decides to take it. Su-bai then felt he was being watched by some unknown person. But there is only him and the ninth elder, and she's too reserved for it to be her. He ignores it and leaves. Ninth elder Shan Wulin stands at the spot Su-bai was standing and started to blush. In Ruqing's past life, she read important books to pass the time. But now she plans to directly practice the sword code and kill Su-bai. He abruptly entered the room, which startled Ruqing. She tells him she's been waiting for him. He excitedly shows her the book. Ruqing points out that the book says if her lucky is low and her cultivation is weak, she'll die. He tells her to trust him, he has no benefits to gain from hurting her. There are actually a lot of benefits in Ruqing's past life. Su-bai immobilized her. Then did some unspeakable things, and in the end, he tied her up and removed her Dao bones. He advised her not to be so pure in her next life. Su-bai interrupts her thought and told her to put the book back at the foot of the bed. She stares at him with a murderous look. He thinks she's mad because she wants him to teach her. He pats her head and tells her Bujian Peak is her home now. She tells him she'll train to the utmost of her ability, although she plans to bash his head in afterwards. Remember to like and hit that notification bell to be aware of new videos.